Decisions, mistakes, they're all adding up right now. Here we go.
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Alongside Sam Olber, I'm Matt Cozy. Sam and I are lifelong fans, taking our passion into discussion with you on all things Cubs. Thank you for being part of the show and making us your first listen today. And the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day, like the video, and comment anything below. Today's episode is presented by our great partners at Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Well, due to both how they were built and poor performance, quite frankly, earlier in the season, the Cubs have no margin for error in their very, very late rally attempt at anything in 2024. And Sam, the Cubs' 10-8 loss on Wednesday was yet another example of them having to make the right decisions, both strategically and on the field, not only game to game, but really pitch to pitch.
You know, again, the easy thing to do would be to say, hey, because of where they're at in the season, there's a frustrating feeling, but you go into LA, you take 2 out of 3, great job. And that's true. And I almost feel like it's a little bit unjust for us to spend a lot of time on this game because we didn't spend a lot of time on the first 2 wins. So why focus on the loss? And I get that. And that sometimes that could be frustrating, but there's really 2 points that I want to hit from this game that I just, and it's not because of the specific game. I just think it's from my perspective of one of the reasons outside of the obvious. The obvious reason is that for 2 months, the Cubs were the worst offense in baseball. We've covered that ad nauseum, but there's some alternate stuff. There's some exterior stuff that I also think led to that. And, you know, I think that because we have a show, Matt, and really, we don't cover every single game, but we do discuss 162 out of 162. There isn't one show that goes by where we don't mention a game.
Right,
and when you do that, I think you're always going to, no matter who your manager is, you're always going to question certain things. And so I think because of that, I might be labeled as a guy that's not as big of a Counsell fan. When in reality, I don't think he's a bad manager by any means. And I've said many times, I just thought he was going to be the solution. And I've learned that this year he's just probably not a huge part of the problem, but not a huge part of the solution. But the issues I have with Counsell were there last night. And it's just about a lack of urgency. So, you know, Wick starts the game. He gives up a home run derby in the first inning. He gets through the second. And then in that third inning, Ohtani's coming up. You have a day off on Thursday. You pretty much have to win as many games as you possibly can. Every game has to be full throttle. He allows Wicks to face Ohtani. Then he only goes 1 inning from Roberts, 1 inning from Thompson, 1 inning from Miller. And then late in that inning from Armstrong, you have a lefty pocket comes up. Lux and Ohtani, because Lux came in to pinch hit.
Right.
Smiley didn't pitch the night before. Smiley doesn't come in. And then in the 9th inning, how do I say his name, Matt?
Wingenter
comes in. And look, throughout the course of 162, being down 1 in the 8th inning is not a high leverage spot. I get that. But in this certain case, when you're in urgency must-win mode and you have a day off on Thursday, shouldn't you have put out a different guy, maybe a Smiley, or, you know, if Pearson could throw again or whatever it was? It just feels like, you know, just kind of this, well, you know, this is what we do. You know, we don't really change. It's just, do you know what I'm trying to say? It just,
yes,
adjust your plan based on urgency. And the word urgency is what really stuck out to me in May and June. We were running out the same lineup. We were saying the same things. Sometimes I'm not asking anybody to be Sam Olber, because that's not a healthy way to manage a baseball team. I'm way too emotional as a fan. But I just think that this Cubs organization led by Craig Counsell is too much of this. And if you're on YouTube, if you're on audio, I'm doing like a middling thing. I get it. You're not too high, not too low, but sometimes you need a little emotion. You need a little zest. You need a little spark. And then of course,
why didn't Smiley or Pearson pitch? Isn't that strange?
And then there were two really bad base running errors that, again, Counsell didn't call for the steal or Counsell didn't do those. But if those are, Matt, you coached at a really high level. When
Yeah,
those
so it's a bad decision that cost you a comeback chance.
and when one of those things are happening, that's a reflection. The manager controls that stuff. That shouldn't be happening. PCA should not.
That's the tone for that.
PCA should not be running the bases with the bases loaded, running to second when Nico Horner's there. And Seiya's idea was right, stealing third. I have much more problem with the PCA play than Seiya, but you have to steal it. You have to get it if you're going to do it.
That was brutal, especially in that situation with Kopech, as wild as he was.
Yeah. So it was just between the base running mistakes and to Counsell's credit, he called both of them inexcusable. But
yeah,
between the base running mistakes and the just the lack of, it reminds me kind of the Cleveland game when Merriweather pitched 2 innings. It's like, hey,
it's similar.
Yeah, it's 8-8. Let's go. Go get your good guys. Let's go. This isn't about Julian Merriweather's development. We got to win. Let's go. And I think it goes to your point about the margin. They put themselves in a spot like this to where they have to do this. And it still just doesn't seem like the urgency is quite there. And who knows? Maybe Jed's told Craig, don't worry about the playoffs. It's not going to happen. Just manage. Who knows? We don't know.
Yeah, I think it's eerily similar to the Merriweather situation from, almost a month ago in Cleveland. And oddly enough, Smiley is the last reliever remaining from March 28th, opening day roster. And I just think he should have been in that spot. And yes, margin for error. I would like to acknowledge absences and injuries, but that's about building depth. That's about pocketing wins when you were supposed to, when you could have. And that's about not going 17 games under 500 for 61 games. But odd choice there not to put Smiley in. I did not see any reporting on that after the game. Pearson was not coming off a back-to-back or anything like that. So, he had his spikes on as well, in theory. And the base running mistakes are really, really poor. Yeah, you do as much as you can to make it 7-7, and then you're trailing 10-7 with 3 outs to go, but you have the bases loaded and no outs. And I don't have a crystal ball. At that point, you're feeling good. The pitcher can't throw a strike.
Yep, he had a White Sox meltdown.
It is like a high school situation there. And Paredes gets a sac fly, and then they run into it out. It really is inexcusable, just like Counsell said. In a matter of moments, you go from bases loaded, no outs, and then the Dodgers are shaking hands. So,
and I thought the PCA one was actually
just annoying.
The PCA one was worse. I just think because he's younger, you don't get as upset about it. But think about that situation. With Suzuki, it was first and second, 1 out, became man on second, 2 outs, right? In a 10-7 game. With PCA, it was a 7-7 game after his hit, bases loaded, 1 out, became first and second, 2 outs.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's big.
That big. Who knows? That could have been a 5, 6, 7 run inning. It was bases loaded, 1 out.
Right.
And we already had 4 in.
Yeah.
So that was, and he didn't even look up. Did you?
Yeah,
see
you mean to extend that run scoring stretch?
He didn't even look up.
Yeah.
Well, he just ran. He ran a second base. He looked up, and Horner was at the bag. My guess is that he was
a little bit of irresponsibility.
No, not a little. It was bases loaded, 1 out. PCA hits a base hit to right field. Hits it hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Paredes comes in and scores from third. Bush gets held up at third, rightfully so. PCA doesn't look to see if he got sent. He just assumes that Bush is coming home and runs into Horner at second base and this whole thing. My guess is in his head is, it's going to be a close play at home, so I'm just going to go to second to force a cut, would be my guess. But you can't just...
Yeah, but there's someone in front of you.
Yeah, exactly. And he didn't look. He just was like, I'm super fast and whatever. And so they ran him out of the inning there.
Right.
So, it was an icky play. And, like we talked about it yesterday, that you're going to have those moments with PCA. That's the type of player he is. He's going to push. He just needs to understand that it's okay to push, but not don't push other players, right? Michael Bush
Literally.
can't score. Michael Bush can't score from there. So you got to look up and by the way, where's the first base coach saying, "Hey, he didn't get sent. Stay here."
Yeah. Yeah, but that reminds me of like when people blame Willie Harris on tag plays. Like that's not the base coach.
Right.
But PCA has had moments like that because even in the outfield early on, this hasn't happened recently, but he would literally make contact with the other fielder.
Right.
And kind of like ball hogging.
Right.
So he still has things to work through.
Yeah, and I think that one
it's kind of like reckless abandon, but he has cost the Cubs a few times.
Yeah, and that's who he is. And so I think with that one,
but he's got to tighten up though.
Yeah, he's got to tighten that up.
He does. And this series is another example to me that I really believe they're not that far away.
Yeah, me too.
The last two series. I mean, yes, Wrigley Field is weird this year, but it's not like they got smoked by the Yankees last weekend.
No.
They win 2 out of 3 over the Dodgers. One of those is decisive. The other is a comeback. And there are other examples throughout the year as well.
Sweep in Baltimore.
Yeah.
2 out of 3 in KC. 2 out of 3 against the Twins off the top of my head. The only teams the Cubs didn't really beat consistently were in the Central.
Yeah, well, and then some.
Yeah, and then the D-backs, of course, came in, and the Mets. And so.
Right. So, yeah, the Mets are in that third wild card spot, Sam, by a game.
Yeah, it's a good race.
And 5 games over the Cubs. Mets and Braves do play each other, by the way.
Yep.
And, there's just a lot of – sorry, wrong word choice. There's no room. There's no room to make those type of mistakes on the bases.
Right.
I don't think Wingenter has any business being in the game.
Nope.
And
Sean Armstrong's also really slid into a high leverage role. Kind of they got him and just kind of threw him out there.
Yeah, and I think that's because of the guys from IL now.
Sure. The Lopez injury was huge. I mean, that really
huge.
That injury, because obviously it cost us a direct game that Labor Day against Pittsburgh. I mean, he was rolling, man. He was rolling.
And you need 2 teams to falter, and that's too hard. That's too hard.
No.
And the Mets do have the most difficult schedule remaining in the NL, but
no, we don't even have to do that, do we?
It's too big of a hill.
Yeah, I don't want to. Even if they swept the Dodgers, I was going to come on today and just say, hey, I just want to say publicly, I'm not letting myself go there.
Right.
I do have a fantasy championship this weekend with a lot of Cubs and a lot of Rockies, so I'm hoping for runs galore at Colorado.
Oh, on your team, you have a lot of Cubs and a lot of Rockies.
Well, I made some pickups for Coors Field this weekend.
Oh, yeah. The over-under is 10.5 for Friday night right now.
Oh, and please give me the over.
Yeah, well, they just scored a lot in L.A., so maybe it could happen again. And
we're going to Assad giving up a couple runs.
Yeah, we're going to preview that series in full right after this. Today's episode is brought to you by Tonal. For those of us who thrive on getting stuff done, including workouts, every minute counts. That's why you need Tonal, the smart strength training system that makes the guesswork out of working out so you can make sure you're making the most of every rep. When life gets busy, fitting in a workout can be stressful. With Tonal, you can get efficient workouts personalized just for you and are available with the amount of time you have. Tonal is the world's smartest and most effective strength training system that helps you get stronger, powered by AI. Tonal learns with every rep, so it can deliver workouts personalized just for you. Unlike traditional gym equipment, Tonal uses adaptive digital weight to advance your training techniques. And right now, they're offering our listeners $200 off your purchase with promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's Tonal.com, Tonal, and use promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Tonal.com, promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $200 off. Cubs Rockies, 7:40 p.m. Central Friday, and you can hear every pitch of the Cubs hometown broadcast on SiriusXM by searching Cubs on the SXM app. Cubs do begin a 3-game series at the Rockies Friday. Saturday is at 7:10. Sunday's at 2:10. Assad and Gomber, Tyone and Freeland and Hendricks and TBD. The Rockies are 55 and 92, but the realistic goal is probably 2 out of 3 because of the video game-ish nature of Coors Field. It would be nice to bounce back from Wednesday's defeat with a win on Friday. But other than that, Sam, what are you watching for these 3 games?
I'm watching for the fact that at home, if you take away the 2 games they played, I think in Mexico, which really counted as home games, but they weren't in Colorado. I think they're 32 and 35 at Coors, and they're 22 and 55 away from Coors.
Wow.
So at home they are a mediocre team. On the road, they're everybody but the White Sox.
Right.
What am I watching for? It's a good question. I think I'm really trying to enjoy. I want to see some of our guys that have really suffered with the Wrigley Field conditions just flex this weekend. Let's just put up big numbers. Let's see if Seiya can't have a 3-homer weekend. Or,
that's a good name.
Yeah. Or Ian or Bellinger as well. I mean, Bellinger, we're trying to get him in. I shouldn't say we. I am trying to get him in opt-out mode.
Got it.
And I'd love to see him just hit 2 or 3 long ones. Scott Boras, I don't know if you saw this. I just saw this from Bleacher Nation today. Boras had a quote basically saying that, Bellinger's lack of power could be attributed to Wrigley this year, which I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the Wrigley thing is on everyone's radar.
But the Boras thing's a little interesting because I think he still has as many homers at Wrigley as he does away from Wrigley. So I feel like to the eye test, his power hasn't been there this year, whether it's Wrigley or not. But I'd like to see him. It was there last night, Dodger Stadium, opposite field. Yeah. So I would love to see him flex a little bit. I'm not going to judge much with the pitchers playing at this Arcadian Park. Let's have some fun. Let's win this is a great game for Jed to brag about numbers. Put up, average 10 runs this weekend and have a ball. I think Gomber, you said it was Gomber, Freeland, TBD. So 2 lefties.
Yeah, 2 lefties. Yeah.
And I know Gomber's numbers aren't great at 450, but a 4.50 on this Rockies starting staff's like Randy Johnson.
Yeah, it's not egregious. No.
So maybe that we'll see what happens with him.
Freeland has really struggled this year, especially those first few starts, including against the Cubs.
Yeah, Gomber's last outing, 8 innings, 1 earned in Atlanta.
Whoa.
Yeah, he could pitch a little bit. So
former Cardinal.
Yeah, former Cardinal, and I think he was in the Arenado deal.
Oh, good. You know what I was wondering? Nate Pearson has been great.
Yes.
Including 2-inning appearances.
Yeah, he's showing a lot of progress.
I'm curious if down the stretch they would start him like this Sunday as an opener for Hendricks. Like, why not?
Love the idea.
Then do it then.
Right. Well, if that were my choice, you'd have a lot better of a life.
He's just a good candidate for that. And
no, he's... I was looking at
and what's Wick's future with this club?
Yeah, we didn't even talk about that. That was rough. I'm not going to go there with him. I just don't think he's been on the field enough. Let me see him be on the field for like 2 months straight. Then I'd like to.
Yeah, no, he's only made 6 or 7 starts.
Yeah, I'd like to see him just be on the field. You said this,
or now he's probably made 10.
You said this about Wicks last year around this time. Remember how enamored you were with his changeup?
Yeah.
He's not getting swings and misses this year. So if that's not the case, he's out of luck. He's got to figure out how to get people to swing and miss at his pitches. Last year's changeup was wonderful. This year, guys are either not swinging at it or when they do, they're hitting it. So that's a problem. But let's see what happens with him. I'm definitely not out on Wicks yet at all.
No.
I was a little bit, last night I was a little wired from the game and I was looking at some stats. Hunter Biggie's been really good in a Rays uniform.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so I started to think like, hey, do the Cubs have like a development problem with their bullpen? First it's Estrada, then it's Biggie. Remember Jason Adam was another big one. So I'm looking at guys like Nate Pearson.
Estrada's the biggest one though.
Yeah, no, he couldn't even get it out in a Cub uniform.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at guys, like Nate Pearson and going, hey, well, there's a good, project, or Porter Hodge, or, hey, we went out and got Jorge Lopez. He wasn't that good till he got here. So,
right.
Yeah, it's been a really good run, though, in a race uniform for Biggie.
Okay, well, that's nice. Yeah, he didn't falter here. He was traded for, value in theory.
Since
Paredes
he's been
could look better this week.
Paredes had a great series. He had a
Yeah.
great series. He looked great. He even hit a ball to right field.
Yeah.
Since
First inning yesterday. Yeah, before the floodgates opened.
Since he's been a Ray, it doesn't look like he's allowed to run.
Okay, yeah, the other two dudes are struggling a lot. So
Morel and
I think Leiter's still struggling, right?
Leiter's been
Yeah.
he's a pretty much in mop up mode for the Yanks.
Yeah, I think he had 2 or 3 appearances where he extended that run, and then that was it.
I'll tell you exactly how he's
He
been.
plummeted.
Ready for this?
And then Morel, I believe his average is still starts with the 1.
Mark Leiter Jr., since he's been with the Yankees, I'm looking at the numbers. It's not. It's a lot of 1 earns. He's getting touched up, but no, he hasn't been good. In August, he had a 6.35.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right. Well, there might be a few guys returning to the pen. We got some updates before Wednesday's game. Let's get to those next.
This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily actions with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. The experience of playing with Prize Picks is so simple and fun. This Sunday night, 1 Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on Prize Picks every week in September. Now, I don't believe he had about 93 week 1. So hopefully.
What about Tyson Bagent passing yards? The Bears might need that on their rate. No, I'm just kidding.
No, don't say that. That'll be a lightning rod. That's right. Only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. 4 weeks of free W's. Don't miss this deal on Prize Picks because it's gone when September ends. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks for deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, run your game.
You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Well, we have something a little different for you because right now, through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV-based plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. And if that's not enough, be sure to check out FanDuel's Profit Boost in the app and use it for FanDuel's double your winnings for all of this Sunday's pregame money line bets. The Profit Boost is live right now. View your account page to learn more about your boost. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. And Bears right now are still a 6.5 underdog. Cubs Friday night -146. FanDuel.com/lockedon and download America's #1 sports book. Okay, a few injury updates here. Hayden Wisniewski is on a rehab assignment at AAA Iowa. Could be back as soon as, well, really this weekend, but probably more likely next week. Justin Steele, Jorge Lopez, and Julian Merriweather all through bullpens this week, with Merriweather being the closest to reporting to AAA, followed by Lopez, followed by Steele. Keep in mind, though, the AAA season ends in 10 days on September 22nd, and there's only 16 games left at the big league level. But when these guys are ready to come back, I suppose they'll be swapped out with somebody on the current roster. Wisniewski has been in relief, and I just wonder if the Cubs use other people in spots they want to get a look at, maybe even in the Hendricks spot, opener for Hendricks, piggyback for Hendricks, piggyback for Assad. But it's nice that all these guys are throwing. It's just the calendar is not on their side.
Yeah, I glad about Steele.
Oh, it's huge.
Just glad that he's healthy. And I'm glad they're all healthy. You know what I mean, though. But the Steele thing was the one that scared you a little bit when you heard elbow. And now that he's starting to throw and get ramped up, that's right. This is a lost year for Julian Merriweather. It'll be interesting to see what happens next with him. Was last year a flash in the pan, lightning in the bottle, or will he be able to recapture that form? Now, if I were managing the team, I'd be very frank with a lot of these guys and say, hey, whoever throws the best in the spring is going to get the jobs, because it seems like we have done a bad
training.
Yeah, we've done a bad job where guys have been handed big opportunities that didn't throw well in the spring, and then we lost a bunch of games in April until it figured out that we needed to make an adjustment. Take spring training seriously this year.
2 years in a row.
See, at least with the bullpen. See if you can get guys to compete. So when March, 18th, but in reality, April comes around, we have at least a little bit of an idea of who could pitch. We don't have to do the 2 years in a row of April and May. Cubs are up 1 in the 7th. This is a loss.
Right. Well, not the third year in a row. Right.
Right.
I do think spring performance, sometimes does correlate to regular season performance, especially entering out of the bullpen.
Bullpen for sure. In the beginning.
Yeah, it's just too bad. Like
Not for sure. It's different guys. Fulmer and Neris for sure.
I didn't have as many reservations this past spring, but I think the 2023 campaign, they just didn't open the season. How do you not open a season with the correct players?
Yeah, well, they didn't know.
I mean, geez, man.
I mean, we opened the year. Remember Luis Torrens, and I believe he's had a fine. Well, and I believe he's had a fine year with the Mets as a backup.
Yeah, he's been fine.
You really no? I believe he's had a fine campaign.
I remember he was hitting over 300 at one point.
Yeah,
granted, it was limited at bats at the time.
Yeah, I think it's decreased, and I don't think he's played much, but he's had a fine campaign.
All right, well, yeah, we'll see what their strategy is for those 2 games in Tokyo. Next week on the show, we're going to, speaking of those 2 games in Tokyo, I learned only a couple hours ago that 2 home games for the Cubs are being taken away. It's not 1, it's 2. I didn't want to bring it to air as a segment because I wanted to be 100% sure. But also Thursday afternoon, there was a season ticket thing. And we're going to follow up on that next week because we don't have enough details right now. I couldn't check all my facts, but I think the Cubs might be with only 79 games at Wrigley next year.
You're right.
But I need to double check. So
those 2 games in LA are home games for the Cubs. I mean, in Japan, those 2 games in Japan are home games for the Cubs.
I'm not sure why, but
why isn't it just 1-1?
Right.
Because it makes sense, right? Because then the Cubs still go to LA for 3, and then LA comes at the end of April to Wrigley just for 2.
2 games, okay.
So essentially, the Cubs have a 4-game home series against the Dodgers and 3 in LA, but 2 of the 4 are being played in Japan.
Yeah, they play the Dodgers, 7 of their first 22 games or something?
So I just wonder this. Why couldn't you just go 1-1? So that's 2 games. And so you have to play 7. Oh, I see. Because then you would have to do, so which team gets the 3 and then which team gets the 2. Yeah. So that we got the short end of that stick. But hey, you know what? We just took 2. We've taken 2 out of 3 in LA back-to-back years. So
yeah. Shout out to my dad who's running in the Cubs 5K Saturday. We'll be waking up early for that one.
All right. Good luck.
Wrigley. And thank you so much for checking out this edition of Locked On Cubs. You give us 20 to 30 minutes. We'll give you all things Cubs with a laugh or 2 along the way. Be sure to hit subscribe on YouTube as we make the push to 11,000 subs. Smash the like button for the algorithm and leave a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcast. All right, that's the week.
6 games with the Marlins in 9 days in May of 25.
Remember when they used to do the flag on PTI? I'd like to start doing something like that.
Oh, I really do. I really do.
Yeah. Just we have such a narrow shot here. He's Sam Olber. I'm Matt Cozy. This is Locked On Cubs.